Napoli fans around the world, welcome to Napoli Talk. Guys, it is the last game of the season, and Napoli win 3-0 against Spezia, a team that, when I went to see them earlier this year, beat us at the Maradona, and it was one of the worst games that we had at the time, but this was definitely instead one of the better games that we had. And 3-0 with our reserve team. It shows that Napoli has a bit of depth to them, and that the issues of this team are not the starting 11, are not the squad, but it's the mental aspect, because these players, without any sort of pressure, were able to deliver in the last 2 or 3 games with maybe some of the best football that we've seen from them this season, except maybe some of the games at the start. But this game wasn't maybe so competitive. Spezia were safe, Napoli guaranteed Champions League football, but there was some interesting aspects of it, and we'll go over some of those aspects. So how about this? How about we start with the analysis of the game, then a bit of player ratings, and then I want to take a moment to just see the league table, because it's essentially what Napoli are going to be at this season. That's the last game, that's it, that's our position, our goals, our goal difference all set. But let's take a look at what happened in today's game. So I just want to start off by Napoli's first goal, with Koulibaly passing the ball to Politano. And if some of you guys have been following the recent video that I did, I think it was 7 or 8 minutes, 2-3 weeks ago, I highlighted how Napoli were not using Koulibaly enough in these sort of scenarios, whereas we were doing this at the start of the season. And I said, if Napoli are going to go on and win games in the future, we need Koulibaly to provide more progressive passes. The players need to also be in a position that they can receive these sort of passes from Koulibaly. That was something that for about 20 games of this season we did not have. And literally since the moment I made the video, then all of a sudden things change. So Spalletti, if you're watching this, send me, say hi, go on the chat and say hi every once in a while. So anyways, this is Politano getting the ball, and then credit to him, because he makes an amazing run all the way to the edge of the box before finally scoring the first goal within the 4th or 5th minute. But that all starts with Koulibaly, in my opinion. Then there was a moment during the game where there was some clashes between the fans. So for anyone that maybe is not aware of what happened, because then the commentators, they don't really talk about it too much, but essentially the Spezia fans before the game. The Spezia fans attacked some of the Napoli fans, attacked a bus of Napoli fans. Then they get to the stadium, and the Spezia fans start chanting things against the Napoli fans, just the usual racist chants, but also a bit of mocking chants, which are maybe not necessarily racist, but the Napoli fans didn't take it too well. So then the Napoli fans started throwing everything at the Spezia fans, whether that's chairs, flags, whatever, you name it, which is not good at all. And then the Spezia fans, for some reason, wanted to go and attack Thiago Motta, their own coach, and then the players had to shield off Thiago Motta. It was absolutely insane what was happening. Why that needs to happen on the final game of the season, I will never understand. It's two teams that have literally nothing to play for. But the historical aspect is that Spezia has a gemellaggio, which I think in English maybe translates to like when the ultras are friends with each other. So Spezia has a gemellaggio with Sampdoria, and Sampdoria and Napoli, and they also have it with Marseille. And these are two teams that Napoli has rivalries with, especially because in previous years Napoli had a gemellaggio with Genoa, the other team of Genova, which is the same city where Sampdoria and Genoa play. Anyway, so we're like in two different ultra spheres. We're not with Genoa anymore, but historically we were, and there's that bit of rivalry there, which is so stupid. I think ultras in football are the violent type of ultras are just the worst thing in football. If there's one thing you told me I can get rid of between one day and the next, it'd probably be violence in football. It's so unnecessary. Anyways, the game gets going again, and this is Napoli's second goal, which I thought was quite interesting because Zielinski is in a position here outside the box, which is very different from maybe a position where Mertens would find himself if Mertens was playing. I feel like Mertens may be the type of player that, because he's a bit more of a striker, would be in and around that ball somewhere, maybe closer to the penalty spot, whereas Zielinski, being more naturally a midfielder, holds himself back a little, and ultimately being in that position is what enables him to score the goal. But it's also the fact that Petagna, because he's so big, because he's so he has such a presence about him in the box, he drags three Spezia players around him. They can't clear the ball. It goes to Zielinski, and then Zielinski is able to fire it into the goal. And the other aspect about Zielinski is that it doesn't matter whether the ball is coming on his left foot, on his right foot, he just goes and strikes it. Even a player like Mertens would not have done that. Mertens, in this situation, it would have been on his left foot. He might not have taken the shot, So when we talk about Zielinski and whether he's supposed to stay or go or whatever, let's remember that he is a different player to Mertens, and in some cases, it's beneficial to have that type of player. In some cases, it's more beneficial to have Mertens. I'm just saying, it's nice to have that variety, and it's nice that you actually can bring on two very different number 10s at some points in the game, and it will just create confusion with the opposition, because they'll take different positions on the field, even when it comes to where in the box they are. But then also the fact that Zielinski has that left foot, it's not something that you can necessarily find in every number 10. So if we do sell Zielinski like a lot of fans want, you then have to figure out who are you going to replace him with, because you can't play Mertens every single game. And I'm not saying I prefer Zielinski over Mertens. I'm just saying some people don't want Zielinski in the squad anymore, and I think that's absurd. It's an absolutely absurd thought to have, that Zielinski needs to be sold. I think he's a luxury to have in your squad, such a player. And then we get to the third goal. This is all within the first 30 minutes, by the way. We get to the third goal with Demme linking up with Petagna. Great 1-2 between two players that have not played very much, but they seem to be at a higher rhythm than some of the Spezia players, and even some of the other Napoli players. Well, not Petagna, but Demme. I just found him to be very on it today, and he links up extremely well and scores a really good goal. And this is something that Demme has, which Lobotka, Fabian and Anguissa don't have. His ability to get in the 6-yard box. It's not the first time that he's done it. He's the only, let's say, more defensive midfielder that we have, or out of the central midfielders that we have, that actually makes runs into the 6-yard box. Not the 18-yard box, the 6-yard box. He's done it several times. I've pointed it out many times. There's a video from last year that I did in one of the Europa League games in the group stages, where I focused the entire analysis of the game on Demme, and the amount of times that he would get into the 6-yard box was unreal. It almost goes unnoticed, and he's not played very much, and I think that he will leave, but it's a shame because, again, it goes back to in the squad that we have such a variety of characteristics with our players, and it's a shame that sometimes one of them doesn't get enough playing time, and then as a result the player naturally has to leave because maybe just that style maybe does not suit the coach, or the coach, I don't know, maybe just doesn't see it. But I find it interesting how Demme is so different compared to everybody else. Then we had Verde playing against us. Verde, who, if some of you have been following Napoli Talk, and if some of you have been following me on Twitter for a while, will know that I used to do this with Verde for 3 or 4 summers in a row, every single day. If he had scored today against Meret, I would have taken some of the credit, because we would train our free kicks in Soccavo in Napoli like every single morning all summer. And then one day I just saw him on television playing for Roma. He never told me that he was in Roma's youth team. So imagine this. I never knew that about him. I would just rock up to the field, just me and him at times. We would train, and he never told me that he was becoming professional. And then I just saw him on television, and I was like, okay, wow. Well, anyways, but yeah, he's such a good free kick taker. I'm actually surprised that he didn't put it more in the corner, because I've seen him place it so precisely on so many numerous occasions. He's got an incredible precision and accuracy, and he's been linked to Napoli recently. I don't think he's at the level of Napoli, honestly. I think Spezia is his level, but you know, if we really need someone to be our third choice winger, then as a third choice, maybe that would be a good thing. You know, he's 100% Neapolitan and loves the club, so maybe it might be someone nice to have in the dressing room. Spezia could have had a goal, but was ruled off for offside. You can see here, he's a foot or two offside, the Spezia player, but Meret gets beaten there. And because of all the protests or clashes in the stands, we had 10 minutes of added time at halftime. It's not something I've necessarily seen before. And then Meret gets substituted with, and nothing really happens the second half. We have this amazing triple substitution of Osimhen, Mertens, and Insigne, which I think is like the greatest triple substitution that ever happened in the history of football. But then we also make a substitution with Meret coming off for Marfella, and Marfella actually gets quite a bit of action in today's game. Immediately, within 2 minutes, gets called to make a save and responds present. You know, he's got good reactions. And then a few minutes later, Spezia hit the crossbar. Verde dribbles past a few players, takes Koulibaly with him. Brilliant pass to the Spezia striker up there. And the Spezia striker really has all the time in the world to turn and shoot, but he doesn't. Because actually, in goal, we have Marfella and not Meret. And whilst Meret maybe would have been slow and hesitant off his line, Marfella, you can see here, is charging towards the striker. The striker realizes that, sees it with the corner of his eyes, so he knows that he needs to rush his shot, and it's that rush which ultimately, I think, leads to him missing the target and hitting the crossbar. I think if a goalkeeper would have been half a second slower, the striker would have been able to compose himself more and possibly scored. So that's why I think Marfella did a really good job today. In the 2 occasions that he got called up on, he responded extremely sharply and present, and that's why he is one of the highest scoring players, or joint highest scoring players in today's player ratings. Him, Gulam, because it's obviously Gulam's last game of the season, it's everybody's last game of the season, but last game with Napoli. And I thought Demme played amazing. I thought Politano's goal was really good. Everybody else, I think, played a decent game, slightly above their average. You know, I mean, to win 3-0 is away from home. You still have to play slightly above average, except maybe Zanoli and Meret, who I don't think did anything spectacular today or didn't play above their average. And then Juan Jesus, I think he lost the ball many times. I think most of Spezia's, not really chances, but half chances or opportunities that could have resulted in shots came from Juan Jesus' mistakes. And I think Napoli need to take a look at that. And whilst he's been a very good third choice centre back and was amazing when Koulibaly wasn't around together with Rahmani, I think we do need a better third choice, and we keep Juan Jesus as a fourth choice. But I also found it extremely interesting that in today's game we didn't have players such as Unas come on. I think that means that Spalletti believes that his time at Napoli is up. There's no point in even trialing him for an extra 20-30 minutes. Surprised that Fabian didn't get to play. Does that mean that was his last game at Napoli a week ago? Or does him maybe not coming on today and not having a goodbye moment, does that mean that he's staying? We'll see about that. But yeah, there's going to be obviously a few faces here that are not going to be around next year. I think obviously Insigne is not going to be there. And there's someone in the chat, Silvan S, saying, Dom, what do you think about the rumors that Koulibaly will leave to Barcelona? I think that if Koulibaly leaves to Barcelona, first off, Barcelona would need to at least pay 40 million for Koulibaly. But I think his salary is quite high for Barcelona, and 40 million is quite high for Barcelona. They're not generating, or they're not able to spend that much money. I think they're still I don't know. I think Barcelona still have some sort of restraints on who they can buy and how much they can spend on salaries. So Koulibaly's not going to force a move. I don't know if he's going to stay or not, but if he does leave, then Napoli have a huge challenge, because then we would only have Rahmani and Juan Jesus. So we would need to replace, not only find a third choice center back, but also a first choice center back. We can't have Rahmani as our best. We can't go from Koulibaly being our best to Rahmani. When you sell a player like Koulibaly, you have to replace him with a top 15 defender worldwide. Koulibaly is top 3, and it's going to be very hard to replace him like for like, but you have to at least go top 15 at that point. And that's going to cost Napoli a lot of money. So I don't know if it's necessarily worth them selling Koulibaly. So that's the player ratings, and then I think as I said before, let's take a look at not necessarily the match stats, because who really cares about the match stats against Spezia, but just to take a look at the league. Listen guys, we have more points than last season, right? But I tweeted this yesterday. The points, unless it's like a gap of 10 or more, they don't really matter. It doesn't really matter whether you have 77 or 75. That's not necessarily saying you only improved by 2 points. What matters is your league position, and I think what matters is the relative points to your previous league position. So for example, Napoli last season finished 5th, right? But Napoli now are 15 points above 5th place Lazio. So for me, the improvement that Napoli has this year is on the scale of 15 points. You see what I did? I took Napoli's position from last year, 5th. So what the current placed 5th team looks like, Lazio, 64 points, and compared it to us. That's how I think you should compare a team season by season. That's, I think, the thing that makes most sense to me, because why would I compare Napoli's points from last season to this season when the teams are completely different, their values are completely different? But what you can do is say, right, last year we were the 5th best team, now we're the 3rd best team, and there's such a gap between us and the 5th place team. That's, I think, the key there. So, everybody that says, oh, Napoli only improved by a handful of points, technically, yes, but for me, the way I interpret it is Napoli improved by a magnitude of 15 points, which is the team that finished 5th. And it's crazy how actually the teams like Lazio, Roma, and Fiorentina ended the season on such a high with their fans, and they are so far off Champions League football and so far off the title. So I don't know if it's something that we've got to learn from them, if we've got to realize that actually if they're celebrating 5th spot, then we should definitely be celebrating 3rd place, or if it shows that Lazio, Roma, Fiorentina have completely different ambitions. I don't know why Roma and Lazio would have different ambitions compared to Napoli. They spend just as much money as us. They have coaches like Sarri and Mourinho. So I don't know. It puts things into context. I might have to do a separate video analyzing the mood of every team and what it means in terms of what context they're in. But then definitely the talk of today will be Milan and Inter. I think Milan are going to win the title. They play against Sassuolo. All they need is a point, and even if they lose, Inter need to win. And that's so the likelihood is like 80% in Milan's favor, and I think that Milan deserve to win over Inter at the moment, because if Uncle Sharma's watching this, he's going to be really upset with me. But I feel like Milan went through a more difficult season than Inter. They had a very similar season to Napoli, where they had so many injuries. I think they were so unlucky with some refereeing decisions. For example, the one that they had against Spezia. Whereas Inter maybe got a little bit more lucky with refereeing decisions. I can remember the time against Torino when Torino didn't get a second penalty, and then Inter pulled a draw out of the hat there because of that. And Inter didn't have to suffer with as many critical injuries as Napoli or Milan. Like Milan had Ibra out a lot, they had Magnan out, they had Kjaer out. Their whole center-back pairing was completely new from what they started the season. So several injuries, and they managed, however, to grind out results slightly better than what Napoli did. When the pressure was on, they beat Inter and Napoli in the second half of the season. You can discuss whether it was deserved to win those games, but ultimately they showed up and didn't lose. Now, you can win in a million different ways. They probably didn't win in the most convincing ways, but they won, and that's something that Napoli can't say. Napoli did not win against Milan or Inter in the second half of the season, and the games that truly mattered, we bottled them, whereas Milan always turned up. And you can see their form. They won the last 5, and that's critical. Whereas Inter, they lost one of their last 5, and that's the difference maybe between being champions and not. But then we also have this amazing relegation battle between Salernitana and Cagliari. I really hope Salernitana can at least get a point today. That means that they would be guaranteed staying in Serie A. And if you look at where they were 10, 15 games ago, before Nicola came in, they were nowhere. So the way that they managed to turn that around is amazing. If we can have Salernitana, Napoli, and Benevento in Serie A next season, I think that would be amazing for Southern Italian football, and just rebalance the situation a little bit. Anyways, guys, the F1 is starting in a minute, so I'll wrap it up here. I'll let you guys enjoy your Sunday. I will do a proper analysis of this season in the next few videos. There's a different type of video coming up quite soon. It's not necessarily football related. I hope you guys don't mind, but I feel like I'm on this platform for 2 years now. It's the second and a half season that I'm doing this. A lot of you guys message me on Instagram, on Twitter, I've built a friendship with you guys. I'm always speaking to you guys, and I just want to do a different type of video where I explain just a bit more about what's going on in my life. So I hope you guys like that. I'm not gonna start, vlogging all the time or doing non-football related things all the time, but I feel like, once a year, especially when the season is over, and especially if big things are happening in my life, then I'll update you, because it might have an impact on Napoli Talk, so I think you guys should be aware. But anyways, guys, that's all from me today. Hope you guys loved Napoli Talk this season, and hopefully, guys, next season we go again and we have some silverware to celebrate. But speak to you soon, and I'm sure over the course of this summer we will have time to do some more lives and not just videos. We'll schedule in a few things here and there. Anyways, guys, see you later. See you next year. See you soon. And as always, Forza Napoli sempre. Ciao.